Welcome to Fandom Power.
Why, hello there.
Greetings, folks.
What is going on?
Well, here we are. It's let me flip that over. There we go. That's better. Now I'm looking at you.
There we go.
Magic of live.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first Fandom Power presents the Fan Batch Season 1 wrap-up special. It's our first live stream ever. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the show today. Hope you take part. And just to get things started here, once again, I'd like to welcome everybody in. My regular co-hosts, Andy and Hank.
Yo.
What's up, world?
So I guess we get a few people watching already, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, wicked.
Just gonna wait a couple seconds here, and hey, Scott says, and here we go. There we go.
Nice.
All right, so just a quick technical reminder, folks. If you're presently watching us on Facebook, remember, if you have not granted Facebook permissions, we cannot see your name. So that's fine if you want your privacy protected. I totally respect that. But if you want us to know who you are, you need to give us those permissions so we can actually see who we're talking to.
For us, let the government look at your underwear. just for us.
Hank, you said this week you might actually wear pants.
Got them on. Got shorts on. They're not quite pants, but I do have pants on. And a long shirt in case I get really excited.
All right. Well, I'm not going to waste any time sort of on the banter. I want to get right into sort of what it is we're doing today. We're going to take a look back at the entire season of the Bad Batch. We just wrapped up all 16 episodes last week, and it felt like a long, 16 episodes that we did over a period of 15 weeks. It felt like a very long. Man, that's probably the longest review series that we've done yet.
Yeah,
because I think Mandalorian, was a shorter series.
That's right. Yeah. Rewatching it in the last 2 days, like binging it, like straight through. And happening to like hit my wall at episode 8 the first night.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I start late, right? I get off work late. And stuff.
Oh yeah, of course.
So having hit my wall at episode 8. And then starting, again the next night at episode 9, it really felt like 2 seasons,
right?
2 shorter seasons, and the cliffhanger of episode 8 is a lot stronger than the finale.
Really,
it just felt that way. I mean, we got Omega has just been taken by Cad Bane.
Right.
We're left not knowing a damn thing, and it's just so strong. And I mean, and immediately episode 9, she's recovered. We start back on the journey again.
Right.
So it felt like certainly definitely a midway point, but more like
a season break.
More like a season break for me.
Sure, yeah.
And I had that feeling about the finale too. If it had been aired like a 1 hour total, it has more impact. The retelling of the rehashing of the ideas to us felt stilted because we were separated by a week. But when you watch them back to back, they're just recapping for Hunter, who's in the room, and it makes a lot more sense.
Right.
Distance by a week, though, it almost doesn't work.
With that first, first 2 episodes that were released simultaneously, that's sort of the way that we got it. And so you had this big infusion of like, oh, here, stuff, and then put the brakes on and wait a week for the next thing to come out. And like you say, I think for us, we kind of, that analytical review style, we pull a lot more out of it because we are watching it through sort of the microscope of review. So it's a little different for us.
I think the biggest flaw I could point out, is for me, the show 16 episodes, it peaked in episode 4.
You think so?
For me, I do. I really do. Yeah, it had. We'll talk more about it soon. But episode 4 gave us the most promise.
Right.
It dangled the biggest fish, and inevitably it was the most unfulfilled of the sort of prophecies that we came up with. Gotcha.
And yeah. No, you're right.
Like everything after episode 4 was just like us waiting for episode 4.5.
Right. So I want to go back to June 2020 and the announcement for the Bad Batch. So keep in mind, the show came to air, a year after the announcement.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it takes to produce a fully produce an animated series, but it seemed to me like things were probably well in motion by the time that we got this announcement. So let's just bring that up for a second here. Here's the announcement from, oh my God, June 2020. And it actually talks about sort of the order for the series, but it talks about the premise of the show. And that's kind of where I want to start today, is with the premise. So it actually says the series follows the elite and experimental clones of the Bad Batch, first introduced in the Clone Wars, as they find their way in a rapidly changing galaxy in the immediate aftermath of the Clone Wars. Members of the Bad Batch, a unique squad of clones who vary genetically from their brothers in the clone army, each possess a singular, exceptional skill, which makes them extraordinarily effective soldiers and a formidable crew. In the post-Clone War era, they will take on daring mercenary missions as they struggle to stay afloat and find new purpose. So that having been said, that's the premise of the show. I guess I really want to, first question I have for you guys, and really for those of you who are watching, is did the, oh my Lord, where am I going here? Did the premise or the show actually live up to the premise that we were given a year ago?
I think so. I think they nailed it.
Yeah. Because it gave us so much more in the world. It certainly fits with all the other things that were going on. It sits in the narrative very well. Like
right.
It feels like it's Clone Wars. It feels like it's Rebels.
There was a meme that floated around not too long ago, and I think I sent it to you guys, where it was, the Clone Wars. It was Fred from Scooby-Doo, and he was sort of he was looking at the villain, and pasted on the villain's head was the logo for the Bad Batch, and then when he took the hood off, it was like Clone Wars Season 8.
Yeah, exactly. And we even open like that. We do. The show even opens with Clone Wars and in the red, the way we left the Clone Wars at the end of Season 7, and then it burns away, and we even have the voiceover. The very last serial, sort of the first episode is the last episode of Clone Wars. That narration opening.
For sure.
I always think of them as those 1940s serialized newsreels.
That's right.
Breaking news, everybody. Like that guy who was the same voice actor who did Yularen. So I really like that aspect. I really like that aspect of the show. I guess the follow-up question to that would be, over the course of the show, did the Bad Batch do enough to differentiate itself from the Clone Wars to be its own thing, to live and breathe on its own?
I think so. I think we're given enough, like, they're completely out of their element.
Right.
They're forced to grow in this new galaxy post Clone War.
That's right.
So
I don't know if they stand alone. I don't know if, I actually don't know if any of these characters I give a darn about, really, without being propped up by all the things that make this what it is. And that's the sets and the cameos and the larger narrative, which is like how the Empire became the Empire in the aftermath of Order 66. And I'm more invested in the narrative than the actual characters. So when Rex appears on screen, I'm like, okay, I'm back in. Right. And then and sort of the next episode, when the that trail isn't followed, I'm like, oh, yeah, and I realize it's not missed opportunities because we're going for the long haul here, but I don't know that, propped up by all these things that are essential Star Wars, what people actually are arguing and saying small galaxy syndrome. I disagree. I feel that it doesn't stand on its own very well.
Certainly, I think it's there is definitely a barrier to entry. If this is your first take at Star Wars, this is probably not the show to do it on, because, as you say, it doesn't. it doesn't work without being propped up by all the other things around it. So not that you can't enjoy it, you know, on a
no,
some
it's
level,
visually, it's stunning.
absolutely.
It's visually stunning. But rewatching it after having watched it analytically and trying to just enjoy it, I was like, you know, I could watch Rebels every day, right? I could watch the films pretty much every day. There's some days I just feel like not today, but I could.
Right. So here's a comment. So Scott says that I think it filled my Star Wars fix and opens the door to everything else that's coming. And you're absolutely right. And we know that as fans of the property, the larger property, and seeing, you know, having been fans of the films and fans of all the other animated series and knowing what's to come, you know, for us, I think there's a sense of anticipation at like connecting those dots and filling in those gaps. At the same time, the flip side to that is if that's not your thing, then that could be a little bit of a disappointment. It's like, oh, I already know what's going to happen. Give me something new. I want to see something different. And I guess that's where I'm kind of like, does the Bad Batch differentiate itself enough that it is something different?
And arguably Omega is like the gateway for new fans, especially young fans,
Sure.
to maybe latch onto something there, because she is wholly unique. She's actually wholly unique in Star Wars. So I will give them that. And if there's a gateway for young fans to get on board, it's probably that character. She's not strong enough for me to keep me, you know, without all that other super crazy cool stuff that's going on. You know, nods to to places and people and events and things. I probably would have checked out.
All right. Well, listen, I'm gonna bring up the next point here, and somebody else has a very strong opinion about Star Wars, and I think we should just take a look and have a listen to what this guy actually has to say about Star Wars and what it should mean to you as a viewer. So, take a second and have a listen to this.
This job is great in so many ways, and I think people think the job is great because we get to tell the story, because we do these effects, because we get these experiences, because we go to Celebration, right? But also great is just standing on the side and watching somebody, you know, again, like I said, I saw a child inside John that he experienced Star Wars. I sit with Peyton. You see your crew just staring at Mark, and you realize they're remembering what it meant to them. And you realize that you've been a part of constructing something that's giving that experience to people, this good feeling, which fundamentally Star Wars should deliver a good feeling, an uplifting feeling in you and your family, your kids, whatever.
I got to hand it to Dave Filoni, who you know, definitely has a pretty solid finger on the pulse of what the property is. Certainly, he wouldn't be in the position that he's in if he didn't. So, after hearing that, what do you guys think about, you know, how you should feel about Star Wars? I mean, I've never really considered, like, I'm a big fan of don't tell me how to feel about anything, but like, for me, does he not? To me, he nails it on the head. Like, I totally agree with him in the sense that it should be an uplifting feeling, and I'm not 100% certain that the Bad Batch delivered on that.
His opinions freak me out all the time because they're my opinions, right? And then I sit and I go, I'm super relieved because of that. In a narcissistic way, I'm super relieved because then I know that somebody is in charge of the project that has my interests.
Absolutely.
Like, because I tend to be on the same page with the guy. When you hear him describe that duel with Maul, between Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon, and how important that singular moment is to the entire series.
That's right.
When you and you know that guy is a fan and that it's inside his heart, like us, and it's, you know, that's a weird thing to say about somebody else's property, but you know, when I see a guy like that, you know, and it resonates, it makes me feel really good as a fan. So did this make me feel good?
Right.
At least once every episode, except for maybe one episode, I went, oh, wicked. You know, maybe it didn't leave me where I wanted to be left, except the narrative actually, it left me exactly where I want to be, to tell you the truth. That last scene with no characters, nothing, just a mountain on a planet that isn't named, unless it's in, you know, how it got named, is exactly where I want to be in the narrative. So that's perfect. And yeah, I felt great thing. I mean, there were ups and downs for sure, but yeah, it left me feeling like good for the
I
most
think
part.
if you go back and you look at our shows over the course of the last 15 weeks, and you could probably tell just from our own energy level and maybe some of the off comments that we've made about, you know, which episodes really meant something to us. Certainly, I know, like the second last episode, I watch every show that we do. I mean, maybe it's a little narcissistic to do that, but I watch all of our stuff as a content creator. I'm very invested in what we're delivering. So
Quality control.
and I see the energy levels from us, or in some cases the lack thereof, and it's like, oh, okay, so it's not just me. But I would agree with you that, you know, on a whole, more episodes than not left me with a good feeling. Like,
Hell yeah.
it feels like Star Wars. You know, the same way that we came off of the sequel trilogy thinking that, okay, it's new Star Wars, but there's something missing. And then The Mandalorian came along and it had everybody like globally sucked right back in. Like, this feels like Star Wars.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, we've already sort of established that at least where the three of us are concerned, that we are way more receptive to and forgiving. I don't even want to say forgiving, because there's really nothing to forgive about the prequel trilogy. We like them, we embrace them. And as I've said, and you've said we've said dozens of times, how much these animated series do to recontextualize and broaden those pre-existing stories and just make them deeper and better. And I think that the Bad Batch is just going to be an extension of that.
Yeah.
Right. It's a chapter in a huge book, right?
Big time. Yeah.
There's all kinds of chapters in Game of Thrones that I just wanted to skip over.
Oh,
all kinds of them, right? But inevitably, you're 10 chapters past, and you're like, where the hell did that come from? So,
yeah.
And as a completist, you know, like a collection guy, and as a completist, I don't mind reading the teen novels. I don't mind reading 50 comic books a week if they're available. I want to know the whole story. I want to replace Pablo Hidalgo one day.
Oh yeah. I think there's a few people this year that want to replace him after his newsworthiness. All right, so let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of the series and sort of the ups and downs of the series as a whole. And the first one I want to open with is, let's talk about episodes. Specifically, let's look at the best and worst episodes of the series. Just let's go around sort of the circle. And guys, if you're watching, if you guys have a favorite episode or an episode that you really didn't like, drop us a comment and let us know your thoughts. I don't know, Andy, do you want to take first shot at this?
I can take first shot.
Sure.
Do it.
As far as my best episode, it was definitely Return to Camino, episode 15. It paced well. There was lots of action, and at the very end, it left me wanting more. Like, give me the next one right now, because I need more of what I just saw. Gotcha. But then we flipped to my weakest episode, or the worst, I guess, and it would be the season finale.
16.
Because, I mean, yes, it was still more of the same. Like, it had all the action beats that you need.
Right.
But it was so fast, and it was like over like that. And it's like, okay.
You know, Legends had done such a good job at fleshing out all of this this period of time, and then so you sort of had the general public, or the Star Wars fandom really was leaning into that, because as we know, and it's going to come up a few times throughout the course of the show, is the expanded universe in new and creative ways keeps getting pulled forward into the new canon. So there was a lot of discussion in the fan community about this clone uprising. Yeah. And you thought that maybe the fundamentals were sort of getting laid for that. And next thing you know, as you say, we get to episode 16, Camino's, you know, a ghost town. There's nobody there. Oh, I guess we're not getting that. So, you know, I can certainly, again, putting the brakes on, and like you say, Hank, watching it back to back probably has a bigger impact. But, you know, certainly some disappointment there, not just for you, Andy, but for a lot of the fans.
And I know, like, the shot at the end with the mountain facility is like supposed to leave you wondering, but it's like, it just wasn't enough for me.
Well, for all of you expanded universe aficionados, you know what you probably have a pretty good idea of what you were looking at, and we're definitely going to dive deep on that one a little bit later in the show. But let's save that for down the way here,
because talking with you guys actually set me closer to where I needed to be.
Gotcha.
Resolution.
Lets it sit a little bit better for you.
It does.
That's fair.
Yeah, that happens a lot here. I tend to get my opinions not changed, but just reframed, which is nice because how we got to evolve. Right?
I guess I'll go next. Favorite episode for me, it's got to be. I'm gonna go. Maybe not the popular opinion, but I'm gonna go with Common Ground. That's the episode that we saw the Bad Batch rescue former Separatist Senator Avi Singh. And, it really, over the course of the series, which is, set up to take these guys and basically pull them out of their element and stick them in this position where suddenly we have to make all of these. The whole show is a big morality play is really what it is. And this one, I think more than any episode challenged the morality of the team, and they had to make these tough choices that suddenly now they're responsible for picking up somebody who ostensibly 10 minutes ago was the enemy.
Yeah.
And we saw how each character kind of struggled with that, particularly Echo, who I've said right along is essentially he's kind of the mirror image of Rex in this series, where he's the most he feels the loss of the Republic Army more than anybody else on the team. So for him, having to go and rescue a Separatist senator was it was a big deal. So to see him come around at the end, that with his final quote about live to fight another day, to talk about resolution for him and for the team to have that resolution. And it tells us as the viewers that the galaxy is now a changing place and the lines are blurred. Which I think is kind of a hallmark of Star Wars, right and wrong, good and evil. It's really all in the perspective of sort of what side of the fence do you sit on, I guess.
Yeah, your enemy yesterday may not be your enemy tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. That episode definitely has their biggest sort of evolution mark beyond just revolving around Omega.
Yeah.
Most of their evolution is like individual relationship stuff.
Yes.
So that's their biggest galactic check that they pass. That's a very strong moment for the characters. Yeah. And I actually don't think that the characters had a lot of strong moments that didn't reflect around,
Right.
Except for maybe Hunter and his relationship with Crosshair. Nobody was that great developed. We had moments, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, and then worst for me, we talked about this the other day, Andy, you and I offline, and I didn't immediately go to episode 16, but I did put it as an honorable mention. It's kind of it's a little muddy for me because I made a lot of jokes about episode 13, Infested, where I kept referring to it as the pitch black episode. Mm-hmm. And more so than any other episode to me, that one felt kind of filler-ish. And I know I don't like to use that word a whole lot because I think every episode has some redeeming qualities and it does push the story forward. But again, this one was kind of filler. But again, so like I say, the silver lining in that one is that it showed us the strategic importance of Ord Mantell in the underworld. And it suggests that Sid may in fact be more powerful than we are actually shown as an audience. So, as much as it's filler, there is a silver lining. So yeah, Infested is probably my least favorite.
It was tough to pick a favorite. Like there was a few, I guess, but like I said earlier, probably episode 4, Cornered. Fennec Shand. Just the chases through crazy underworld cities and the palette, the attack of the clones analogies as we chase through the street on speeder bikes and stuff, the neon colors, the fact that we understood that this is sort of the genesis of the Fennec Shand character, get deeper, and then I can't deny the proximity to Boba Fett there, which was the early promise,
right?
Of this whole show, where we were going. This show for me, this episode for me was symbolic of like the promise that this whole thing held. And I guess I kind of got to say that because it was unfulfilled promise, it's almost at the same time my least favorite episode.
Really?
It took me high. It really took me super high. And then and then I was like, and I do feel, and maybe this is controversial, but I feel like out of 16 episodes, we peaked there.
Yeah.
And we had really cool moments, like the Cad Bane moments were like, that was a really good episode too. And seeing, just little things inside that episode 4. We've seen Wrecker move tanks. We've seen these feats, and then Fennec Shan just does this little spin kick and smashes his head off, and he's out. And you're like, wow, And then it's the proximity to Boba Fett just kept, And then when they started talking about Alpha and
Alpha and Omega,
and it was dipping back into that, and I thought, and then we got Fennec Shand again in that second Cad Bane episode. I thought we're getting so close.
We were pretty bold in that, and we predicted with no uncertainty that we were getting a Boba Fett appearance in the series. And I don't know how your shoes taste, but man, the disappointment when it didn't happen.
That's season 2 needs something.
One of mine is a sweaty cast. So my least favorite episode overall, honestly, is the same as you, 13. And
13,
and just from the idea that if we cut one episode absolutely out and I had never seen it, that episode wouldn't have affected me at all.
No, me neither. And I think that's kind of why I went with it, because even though 16 was like, and not to say that 16 was bad, but coming on the heels of 15, like you say, there's that so, but it still works towards advancing the plot to the next season, and then again, I get it. That's
that sort of after cut, the after credit scene, if you will, the after cut, cut to black, and then we're on Wayland, and wow,
yeah. So
at the same time, it had like the weakest sort of get there, and then when we got there, it's actually that's Tython. From The Mandalorian. That's crazy that they left us there. I think that's mental.
Kim says a great moment was Hera being introduced and to look into her parents, although it didn't really advance Omega's origins or her story. No, I guess it really didn't.
Well, it gave Omega a friend.
It did, and it's funny because we talked about that. It, gives her first age appropriate friend, but even the lines are blurred on that now when we know that she's the oldest clone. So, how many years has she actually got? How many years do any of them have outside the tube? That's my question, really.
Well, you look at Boba still running around in the Mandalorian, so
that's right. Yeah.
He's got a few left to go.
Yeah.
And so should Omega.
Right.
The first Hera episode was my honorable mention for my favorite episode because I just love the character and I love Rebels a lot. And the second Hera episode was my runner-up for worst episode because it was unfulfilled prophecy. It was just like, why are you taking me here and not
paying it off some way?
And so all I can hope is that that's a down the line. They didn't have Darth Vader in every single episode of Rebels, but when it counted, he was there. And I would have liked to seen Hera's finale count more. It didn't, it didn't. I expected something bigger in that second episode with respect to the character.
I go back to the very first episode, to the premiere with the appearance of and the cameo of Depa Billaba and Caleb Doom. Was that just a wink, wink, nudge, nudge for us as the audience, or is that going to pay off down the road? Like, I feel like these cameo appearances and the choice of which characters to introduce at what point, I feel is very intentional. So I don't feel like it's a throwaway moment, but like you say, like to what end?
If you open this show with Order 66 without any personal investment, without a character, ostensibly the clones are rescuing a character that we care more about than they do.
That's absolutely true.
It's a gateway into how their heads work. If Caleb's not there in that episode, it doesn't work. Why do you care about these guys rescuing a random Padawan or threatening a random Padawan, or maybe even saving a random Jedi, or just taking out random clones after they've killed a random? No impact there. We need Caleb Dune in that scene. He's the only one that could have been in that scene.
Well,
you know what I mean? There's nobody else.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
There.
Well, see, here's the thing, and I'm going to get to this later. especially when we get to talking about sort of like dangling threads and sort of maybe where the show could be going. And I do want to come back to that because I have some very strong thoughts about that, but I'm going to save it for just a little bit later. Right now, let's talk about, let me just flip this over here for a second. Let's go over to this one. So now we've talked about sort of the episodes sort of as a whole, like kind of our highs and lows of episodes. But again, like every episode delivered on some level and maybe disappointed on another. So let's talk about sort of our favorite and least favorite moments throughout the series. And I don't know. I guess I'll go first on this one.
Alrighty.
So the first one for me, this was a huge moment for me because remember, I came into the show as a naysayer. So for me, oh, now I can't even find it. I have a picture here that I wanted to bring up. Oh, I wish I had sorted this out a little bit better.
We'll get there.
But essentially, it's the when we get the hunter vision through his helmet, and we finally paid off Republic Commando, which as a huge Republic Commando fan, I felt that the Bad Batch, at least initially, was kind of doing sort of a disservice to the series. Oh, there it is. There we go. The hunter vision. So getting that really was like a nice nod to the game, which clearly inspired the look for a lot of the clones, as we see later on with the introduction of Gregor, and in fact the rest of the I guess we can call them Imperial Commandos. And then I guess the other one for me, the one that I just loved, was the in the 2-part Ryloth arc, when Tech goes full howling mad Murdoch with the Havoc Marauder and throws it into a power slide, and allowing Wrecker to take out all those turbo laser batteries. The man is a mad genius. He just doesn't show it. So those are probably those are my favorites. And then this one, least favorite or worst moment for me, it comes up repeatedly, and we talked about it extensively in our last show, was Crosshair and his brooding, I do horrible things and then I feel bad about it. Man, I said it last week and I'm going to say it again. Like, you're going to have to pick a side and lean into it, because if you keep writing him down the center, I'm going to lose interest in this character. So yeah, for me, that was sort of the least appealing aspect of the entire show, to be honest. What about you guys?
Best moment for me is probably when Cad Bane steps around that corner, actually.
Oh yeah.
That was the one moment that I went, whoa. I mean, even I had moments that were, like, I enjoyed some of the story beats more and some of the larger arcs more, but the singular moment that made me go, whoa, was Cad Bane on screen when he just popped around.
Standing there going, yeah.
That
wasn't much work at all.
If I could put a pin in the whole thing, that moment for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could pick out a worst moment. But there was so many things in episode 13 that just didn't move any of the plot beats forward. There's a couple that did. The Cid being powerful and stuff, and went way down that Durant rabbit hole to see if the Broken Horn clan had any,
Gotcha.
They were disconnected.
Yeah.
And for me, just maybe the whole episode is the worst moment of the season, because it didn't really.
Wow.
Like,
that's a whole 28-minute moment.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I could really watch the whole series again and skip that episode. It's like when I binge watch, like, say, The Office, I skip the Christmas episodes. You know what I mean?
Say that. I was actually thinking
in
about
July. I don't want to watch that.
I was actually thinking about rewatching the series and like which episodes could I completely skip over and not miss a beat.
Yeah. I always skip the holiday episodes, except Brooklyn Nine-Nine's Halloween episodes are the bomb.
Oh yeah, that and oh my god, what's the annual competition? The Jib Jab.
Yeah, the Jib Jab.
The Jibber Jab.
Yeah, Jibby Jab Awards or whatever. Yeah, awesome show. So yeah, I'm sorry, Rio Durant, and your very powerful mother, who we've never even heard of or met.
Oh, Roland Durant. Yeah.
Roland.
Yeah.
Yeah. That for me, for sure. And yeah, Cad Bane and yeah, definitely.
Where are you at, Andy?
My favorite moment, I'm gonna go in with the Moochie versus Wrecker fight.
Moochie.
That's a good.
I do like the Moochie.
Just leaning into that and letting them slug it out until neither one can stand, and it's like, all right, Wrecker can almost take a Rancor.
You got a shot. Oh, there he is. Let's put that up there. Moochie. It was a really high. That was a high moment for me too. And I mean, if you go back and watch our review of that, and how stoked I was at the thought of, oh my god, it's the Rancor from Jabba's pit, and then it's like, no, not really. And that was a letdown.
But it got us the most traction in posts, and it was the biggest conversation we were a part of, oddly enough, in the whole thing. That was the thing people had an opinion on the most.
It is, yeah.
It's like, is it or isn't it?
Yeah.
My other, and it's not so much a moment, but the entire series, the amount of pop culture nods
to other properties,
yeah. So be it the director or the animators or whoever, showing their influences, and that was fantastic for me.
Yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, we have the Cheers analogy with Bolo and Ketch.
Yeah.
And then what else? We got just last week we had the Pokemon reference with the
Pokeballs, Jurassic Park references.
Yeah.
Rambo, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., all sorts of sci-fi properties.
I mean, the A-Team. It's the Bad Batch is essentially the A-Team. I mean, you can't miss that stuff. You can't not see it.
Yeah.
It's almost integral to the way that we watch shows now, that all that stuff is there. And it's
right.
It's kind of what I feel about the whole thing, is that it's being propped up, and without the Camino sinks into the ocean without the struts.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that about the whole thing, without these, like, those kind of moments and the actual character and place moments. What was your worst moment, Andy?
Yeah.
My worst moment, probably just the dangling threads with the bounty hunters.
Yeah.
Because,
oh my god, yeah.
Nala Se and the Prime Minister Lamassu they're like, okay, we're just gonna leave this plot thread because she's with them, and that's better than being with the Empire. But at no point did Lamassu,
the Prime Minister,
at no point did he say that he called off the bounty hunters.
No, he didn't.
Still wanted her back.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And having just rewatched that, Omega makes a big deal of it. She's all inside herself and emotional, saying, well, can we just keep running if they're just going to keep sending bounty hunters? And for a while, we kind of thought that was the whole premise of the show.
Right.
Different bounty hunters. We were expecting, nowhere. Don't worry, you're never going back to Camino. That's that episode, actually, where he promises.
That's right, yeah.
Breaking down, saying they're going to find us. And he's like, no, you're fine.
Yeah, you'll never have to go back there, which means you're definitely.
Don't worry about that. I just was defeated by Cad Bane. Don't worry about that. That duel was awesome, actually. That's another one.
Let's stick with Lamassu for a second, because I know there was at least for me, there was some confusion on what was the contingency plan. Are we satisfied that Omega was to be used? Her genetic material was to be used for the next generation of superior clone to impress the Emperor?
I think so.
Yeah. Is that what we're going with?
Well, with Boba Fett being in the wind, right? She's the remaining pure strain.
Yeah, right. So the Alpha and the Omega thing again. Yeah.
And I actually think that's what they were talking when they said we only need one of them. They weren't talking about
one of
they were talking about Crosshair, but they actually only needed either one of Boba or
and that certainly makes
Boba
makes
or
more
Omega.
sense. Yeah. I still think there's room for them to collide.
Well,
there better be.
I think so.
Knowing that we're in for a longer haul, I'm not so worried. If this had
I'm not either.
16 episodes, all and they were just dangling threads for us to chase in our minds, I'd be a little more,
all
upset.
right.
Not upset's the wrong word, but I'm okay. I trust Dave Filoni a lot.
I do too. I mean, I said it earlier. I don't remember which episode we were talking about when I brought it up, but I was so critical of the Star Wars story group because of what happened in the trilogy the sequel trilogy films. But with the Bad Batch and the last season of Clone Wars, it actually feels, and Hank, you can to sort of touch on the comic book aspect of this, but I actually feel like the story group is actually doing their job and things are cohesive.
It's pretty solid. The comic books are just like this, being propped up by all the coolness that we love, but starring characters that we already give a frig about. I check myself there. But you know, like if we're following an adventure about Luke Skywalker, the man, right? Between Empire and Jedi, and learning some actual canon facts that we didn't know.
Yep.
And they're being propped up by, he's on Onderon, he's on, you know, Polis Massa, he's, you know, cool things like that. But it's somebody we care about. It's the props fade back and they just become what they're meant to be, which is Easter eggs.
Right.
Of actual, you know, hey, we're still watching Star Wars.
Yeah. So I mean, we said it in The Mandalorian that lightsabers make Star Wars better, and we only saw 2 lightsabers in the entire course of the series, and it was in episode 1.
But you notice they were used like exclamation marks, though.
They definitely were. Yeah.
They were like, "Whoa, okay." So the gravitas, the rarity of a lightsaber, like, you go back and you think, what's going on in Obi-Wan's mind that he just pulls one out in a bar just to stop a fight? Why didn't he just like force push the guy across? You know,
seriously.
What I mean?
Yeah.
Really? You know what I mean? He's like, like in hiding so long, maybe he feels like, okay, I got Luke, I got the droid, we're going.
Yeah, really.
Not to hide anymore.
I now know.
Always a questionable choice to just whip out a lightsaber in a bar. Let's go.
Sure.
Yeah, but after cutting Anakin's limbs off, maybe he's had a taste for it and it's just been building.
Yeah.
We need release.
This thing hasn't tasted blood since Maul.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on then. Let's go down to what's our next one I want to touch on. Here we go. So this I want to talk about sort of characters, and I specifically want to talk about recurring characters or main characters per se, and sort of like how do we feel about the main characters? Who do we really like, and maybe who are we not so thrilled with over the course of the series? I don't know, Andy. You want to take us away on that one?
I kind of shied away from the core batch group because I'm, banking on them being there for quite a while.
Yep.
But my favorite recurring one is Sid.
Oh, Sid. Yeah. Okay.
And she's grown on me. At first, didn't know where she was going. Was she going to be friend, foe? Was she just going to sell him out? But I think going forward, she's still going to be part of it.
I do too. I actually think that there's a big role for her ahead.
She's like the Charlie to their Angels.
She really is. Yeah. Or the Charlie or Bosley. I guess maybe either one works.
A mixed role of two.
Didn't the show actually reveal that they were the same guy? That Bosley was Charlie, the same way that Higgins was.
Yeah, she's Higgins. Yeah, I was just about to say my mouth was full of water, but yeah, she's Higgins.
I really like Sid. I kept referring to her as the frenemy.
Yes.
The person who, like keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. She walked the fence with them almost every episode, where if they didn't kind of acquiesce to what she wanted to do, she kind of dangled that, well, I can always tell on you.
Yeah.
Which I found kind of weird because, and I'm going to bring this up a little bit later when we get on to sort of where the show is going, but do you guys remember her introduction to the show? Where
they didn't know that it was her?
Well, they didn't know it was her, but I mean, let's remember our gateway to Sid was Echo. Yes, and although Echo said he'd never met her, he was very specific in how he introduced her to the group, that she was a Jedi informant.
Yes.
Not a Republic informant, a Jedi informant. And that's very specific. Right. So, I have to remember that because maybe there's a silver lining or a soft gooey inside that doesn't come out very often with her. But I think that because she was a Jedi informant, I think that there's a major arc, or at least some more important things for her to do later on.
Yeah, it's certainly the idea that that those characters are still around and may or may not be. One of the best things about the sequel trilogy, Lore Santeca, the idea that there's still like a religious group of non-Force users that are loyal to the idea of the Jedi. It's one of the cooler themes that they don't really harp on too much. But
right. You got a least favorite or somebody that you just didn't really give too much about?
My least favorite, and it's more of a hate thing, is definitely Admiral Rampart.
Rampart.
Yeah.
That guy deserves every ire that is tossed his way. That he's a dirtbag.
Yeah.
We always say Tarkin is the one that sort of orchestrated the whole New Order, but like, I mean, Tarkin took an idea and Rampart ran with it, and he's just like,
yeah,
anti-clone, pro-conscription. Like, he's really, really part of the let's reshape the galaxy.
Chain codes were his idea, apparently.
Yeah, chain codes.
It's fairly ruthless.
Couldn't agree with you more on that one. Hank, where are you at with characters?
My favorite character is Wrecker, hands down. I love everything about that character.
Right.
His childlike innocence, and therefore his it's like benevolence. He's the guy that could do the most damage to you. He's the guy that was least likely to do that.
I remember when it came up in the episode where, you know, the writing was on the wall, and he was, you know, the headache thing, and how it really was apparent with you, like, if he goes off, this could be a really bad thing for for everybody else.
Well, I thought we might get a character death. I really did think we might get a character death.
Absolutely, yeah.
I also think if I was in control of this, I would have actually played that whole thing out, and maybe it wouldn't have sat for 16 episodes, but I would have been subtle with it. But I would have played that whole thing out, because the time for him to go ape shit to make it really interesting is in the friggin' tube in the finale.
Oh, yeah.
Right? For them to have to run back to that medical bay and do that procedure there at that critical moment, and then, you know what I mean?
It's it's the same sort of tropes that they used for Aliens, that idea that you're this enclosed space, nowhere to go, you're closed in, you're always on the run. Like, that would have been more of a
for me, that was the biggest sort of like emotional beat of the whole show.
Yeah.
You know, like when he turned and he was on Omega, and it was just like he was fighting but he couldn't. Like, I was like, oh wow, they really reached into my heart there. And so
right.
Yeah, he's definitely my favorite character. There's a few, like when he jumps on the back of that Scrapper Guild tank, and it's just like, I got this under control. Yeah. There's so many, just, you know, and then I made Andy make that meme up, because I just felt like when she was calling out everybody else and left
he got
him
the short end of it.
And I actually just watched the whole thing just in the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
And there are so many singular moments between her, more than any other character, singular moments between Omega and Wrecker. When they're rescued, it's Wrecker at the top of the ship saying, Omega, are you in there? She hugs him first. She's on his shoulder after every mission, sharing the Mantel mix. He's definitely my favorite character. And now I actually have a controversial least favorite character. And it's not because I don't love the character. In fact, it's because I love the character almost more than all the other characters that he's my least favorite. And that's Echo.
Really?
Echo. He's so underused. He's so underused and underdeveloped, and he's gone through all this, you know, and they dabble in it.
Yeah.
But he's like, for me, he could be the leader of that team. And I know there's a dynamic going on there, like with Hunter and Crosshair, and it's on purpose.
Right.
I just feel the biggest disservice there is to have a character as important to the whole story as Echo, and then to underuse him. So the way they use Echo in this is my least favorite thing about it.
We've talked before about Echo and how more than anybody else, like, if anybody is, you know, got a reason to have post-traumatic stress, it's him, right?
Yeah.
And we don't really get to touch on that a whole lot, you know, sort of that experience of having been, you know, essentially hooked up to the separatist computer system and being tortured and all that other stuff. I mean, he just goes from being, you know, suddenly you're unhooked. Now you're a cyborg and everything's groovy.
And I know we're trying to rapidly develop characters, six characters, actually. We're trying to rapidly develop them and get them to places, but they do a decent job of all the other characters, and they leave all the, like, he's up here when we start. We know tons about him. It wouldn't be that much more to give him a more prominent role. And still, you know, they managed to make Wrecker like really interesting and Tech really interesting, and it took a while for Hunter to get interesting, but it did happen. And Crosshair was always interesting at the beginning you didn't know. But Echo, it just left me like, man, I love Echo. What are you doing to Echo? Like, give him more lines, for God's sakes.
So we got one here from Scott. It says, speaking of Echo, the toy versus what he ended up looking like in the show. Is this a potential season 2 reveal? So that's actually something I wanted to talk about too, because let's bring that up, because I've actually got here. Where is it here?
He's got a hand.
So if you're familiar with the Hot Toys brand and you're an action figure collector,
and you have infinite money.
Be forewarned, a little spoiler here. We already went through this back on the episode. I'm going to bring it up again here, but this is a shot of Echo in his 12-inch Hot Toy. And what is going on there?
New attachments.
So there's a hand. Looks really much very much like a protocol droid hand.
Can't see it, fellas.
You can't see it.
No, sir.
Interesting. Let me try that again. I'm not sure why it's not coming up.
Negative.
Did you see the character portraits I put up earlier?
Yes, 100%.
But you're not seeing that one. Let's try this one.
I'm not seeing that one.
Is that one working for you?
No.
Oh, interesting. Guys who are watching at home, let me know. Can you see the portrait of Echo on the screen? Seems we're having some technical difficulties. Well, anyway, let's just keep talking about it, and we'll deal with it as it comes up.
There it is. You got it.
Okay, perfect. So so we get this sort of thing with Echo where Hot Toys comes out, and I mean, this is not new in the film industry, especially in the last, I don't know, since the internet's been invented, that toys have spoiled entertainment properties to no end. Okay, everybody can see it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And so here we have this thing with Echo where it's suddenly, it's not just a scomp link. He's got
multiple attachments.
Yeah, he's got an arm, and he's got what looks like a battering ram. And then we see again here that the hand and the battering ram are extendable. And I kept thinking, like,
go gadget arm.
Now, is this something that we were going to see? I presume that we were going to get that somewhere over the course of the season, that he was going to get some kind of surgical enhancement.
And it looks like from the elbow down, like everything is in the battering ram from the elbow down.
That's what I mean. Like it literally is just kind of this interchangeable kind of, as you say, Andy, go gadget arm, and that never happened. So like,
I was secretly waiting for that moment, and I think in one of the episodes we were like, is it going to be the next episode because they're in this situation?
Yeah, there's only so many left.
Right, battering.
I figure, cool. And here's the thing, right? And we know from the toys, like this is how we end up with a blue snaggletooth, right? Because marketing happens so far ahead of actual release, so sometimes things change, and like we know from the Kenner days, they sent over the pre-production imagery of the snaggletooth character from the waist up. So, I mean, the guys at Kenner had no choice but to extrapolate what they were looking at. And that's how you end up with a character who's, 6 feet tall, silver boots, and a blue jumpsuit. And then he gets to the movie and he's 3 feet tall, wearing red, and has big furry feet.
Or a character that's so over prominent in the toy line that doesn't even barely have an appearance. Like, I'm looking at you, Constable Zuvio.
Yeah, Zuvio. I figure somewhere there's a storyboard that has that all laid out, and maybe it was a plot idea that was just dropped sort of mid-production, but may come up later on. I don't think
he's killed in the flashback scene. He's actually killed in the flashback scene, but that's his only screen time.
Oh, I mean with Echo and his arm attachment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, with all the attention they gave to the Kenner toy line, in the Mandalorian and whatnot, I can't see them not at some point using it.
Right.
Like, to go back and give us screen accurate versions of the stuff we knew, like even with Bib Fortuna's staff.
Oh, right. They paid off Kenner toy with that.
Yeah.
Is there a Black Series Echo been announced, or that I don't know about?
I'm sure there has been. I don't recall seeing anything for it.
I've seen the Omega announcement.
Yeah.
But I haven't.
Oh, really?
I wasn't. Yeah.
I know that the Rex is making making the rounds right now in the 6-inch Black Series. Yeah. But if you already own Rex, just go and get a piece of cloth and throw it over top. All right. So least favorite was Echo. I guess that me, you.
No, I've done mine.
It's me. It's back to me. Okay.
Yeah, so around to you.
All right. No surprise going forward here. Where is it here? Oh, I was right there and then I lost it.
I know.
We all know who your favorite character
I
is.
I know. But like, come on, you got to give me that moment here. There he is. Favorite character? There's my boy. There he is.
With all his techisms.
Get on with it, Goggles.
I don't know what it is about this character other than I find him, everything he does, everything he says is absolutely hilarious. And I don't know if it's just me that feels that way, but I love this character. And like I said, he had his token leadership moment in the last episode. Follow me. And then to see him, like I say, no surprise, it dovetails with my favorite moment when he threw the ship into that dive. The man just goes completely off the rails. It is completely uncharacteristic of everything he's ever done in the show, meaning that, somewhere in there, there's a wild side in there, or this, measure of unpredictability that you just don't know when it's going to come out. So yeah, Tech is definitely he's my character of choice. And then my number 2, it's Sid. She was such a compelling character with her introduction. And I just thought, this is something we've never seen before.
Real Perlman did phenomenal work bringing her to life.
Yeah. I can't argue that at all. All right. So I guess that brings us up to, so that's our favorite recurring, favorite and least favorite recurring characters. So let's talk about,
what about your least favorite character?
Oh, my least. Okay.
Nice try.
Did I jumped ahead. Okay, so this is, you can call it I don't know if it's a cop-out or what it is, but my least favorite, and it's not because the character is particularly bad, it's just because we did not get enough time with Nala Se.
Oh.
And, I just felt like, for somebody who was so instrumental, essentially Omega's mom, for somebody who's so instrumental in the cloning program, and the idea that the clones still play such a prominent role in the season, I thought we were going to get a little bit more with her. We kind of went back and forth about, is there this mom relationship? And we kind of, maybe, I guess so, but we never got it from her perspective. And I think if we'd spent more time with her and saw things from her perspective, I think she would have been a much more compelling character. And I was a little disappointed with her.
Well, they certainly put in moments for her to develop, putting her in situations where she was at odds with Lama Su and the Empire.
Yeah.
And yet no payoff for those.
Well, that's just it, right? We had those moments with her and I was like, and then you don't see her for episodes at a time.
Yeah,
that's right.
So to see her at the end where, she's literally doing that blink, blink and has no choice but to enter that big Imperial facility, I'm sort of, I don't know how to feel about that. Is she just a write-off and we're never going to see her again? Or are we going to see more from her perspective in season 2?
I think so.
As she's now working on the inside. And is she going to play a role? We know she went out of her way to protect Omega. Is she going to continue to try to do that subversively? So,
she could put small thermal exhaust ports inside every clone.
That's right. In every, there's a joke there.
Whoa.
There's a punchline there
live. No, we can't tell live. Perfect.
Yeah. So Nala Se, probably my least favorite, but only because we did not get enough time with her. All right. Now we can move on to the next one. And that is, let's talk about the cameos. And there was a few cameos. So these are characters that showed up maybe once or twice that are not, main characters or supporting cast that just maybe didn't have a big role, but, ones that stood out either for good or for bad. I guess we'll start with the good, and I might as well just keep going so I don't forget again. My number one,
Oh, I was going to say I could go first, but if you want to go first, do it.
Yeah, I'm just going to get it out of the way because that way I don't forget. For me, the number one cameo, who I'm sure is going to become a series regular, is of course Cad Bane. There's no doubt in my mind, his reemergence. I'm sitting there watching the episode. This is my first watch through. I'm not looking at it analytically. I'm just enjoying it as a fan, and I felt my face go flush when I heard his voice and saw the spurs and the heel thrusters, and I'm like, it's fucking Cad Bane.
Yeah, that was my favorite singular moment. So I do agree. I do agree with that.
Yeah, so favorite cameo for sure is Cad Bane, and all of the implications that it means. You know, the steel plate on his head, and we talked about the previous animatic where, you know, he in fact may have already had that showdown, the shootout at the Cad Bane Corral with Boba Fett. And that just suggests to me that there is an unresolved thing there that those two, if for no other reason, need to settle that kind of in a once and for all way. And we already know how that's going to go. So I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it's a flashback waiting to happen in the Book of Boba Fett.
Totally agree with you on that one. And then, you know, the worst, or my least favorite, or I guess I'll use the word unnecessary cameo. I actually think it's, to be honest, is Saw Gerrera. I appreciate Saw Gerrera and what he represents to the franchise. You know, I mean, he was such a big part of Rogue One and Jedi Fallen Order, and then we see him again in Rebels. But I thought, you know, and of course he was instrumental in the Clone Wars. There was a whole arc on him and his fight on Onderon. But in this, I just felt like his introduction as a like, he's already, like, it's been 10 minutes since the Empire has been, you know, announced, and he's already got a rebel cell going. Like, I know this is an extension of what he was doing in the Clone Wars, but I felt like they tried to shoehorn him into his Rogue One Rebels role too quickly. I just felt like he was unnecessary. I didn't need to see him.
It could be just because they don't want to further explore him until they need him.
Maybe.
So they're going to get him on that path and out of your sight as quick as possible.
I guess so. I
think of it in terms of like what character could have been in that role. Would it have had any impact at all to us if it was somebody we didn't know, just this rebel cell,
a new guy,
right?
Know,
and so
maybe.
it's that prop again. That's all it is. It's that prop again. But I agree that it wasn't necessarily.
You know, that episode, I think the takeaway, at least for me in that episode, is that's the episode where Crosshair like murders women and children, right? That's the takeaway from that episode, is like already.
I was thinking about that. No, he doesn't pull the trigger once. He has the elite squad pull the trigger in the end of the episode.
They do,
but he actually never gets a shot off. The whole time he's pointed at the old lady in there. And I remember watching the episode going, what's going through that guy's head that he's willing to take out the old lady first?
Interesting.
So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But he actually never murders any of those people. He gets elite squad to do it. Turns his back when it happens, actually.
Oh, wow. Now, see, I really need to go back and rewatch that now, because that may change how I feel about that character. Because you know how I feel about him.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been making conscious decisions towards the dark side from a very early point in the show.
It's got that vibe, but I did note that rewatching it. I went,
yeah.
You know.
And then the other one for me, if I had to say anybody else, would be the Roland Durand character. You know, he's the criminal by birth, not by choice. He's so disinterested throughout the entire episode that, you know, I said it before, I'll say it again. He just doesn't want to be there. So that's one of that's episode 13. That's Infestation, right? Yep. So I mean, like you say, you could drop that episode and not even watch it, and it doesn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, those are my my favorites and my least favorite. But you guys?
I think everybody knows what my answer is. I think, and it's Hera.
Nice.
Syndulla. I went ape shit for any connection to Rebels. I went ape shit. I love that character. It's more prevalent now and to the benefit of the whole human race that there are strong female characters that are leaders, that can handle themselves in rough situations, that young girls can look up to and stuff like that.
Yep.
I'm constantly having the conversation with Lauren about how if there were characters like Hera Syndulla and Sabine Wren and even
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian character, forgive my the Dune, Cara Dune. Characters like that when she was younger.
Yeah,
that were less of just like a puppet, a prop saying things to make a guy look good, you know. that would have just, so I can't imagine being a young girl right now and having this, if you're a Star Wars fan, to have that, to actually to embody that, and then to see her genesis as a character was awesome for me. And I just, honorable mention, certainly Caleb Dune. And I really liked sort of the bookends of that. Like, I like seeing those two characters pop up and their proximity to one another.
Right.
But so far away, and knowing that the trajectory that they're on. For me, those are my two favorite sort of cameo appearances. And Hera's stronger. I mean, and I gotta actually group Chopper with Hera, because that's like that pair, which actually gives you a little more insight. So I get three favorites. I'm sorry, guys. It gives you more of an insight to their connection in Rebels. When
they're all intrinsically linked.
When you watch her and Hera interact in Rebels, and then you go back to, she was a little girl, and that droid, they raised each other.
Yeah. Almost like
all those beats make more sense. So I love when I can watch something that's retroactive, that doesn't change anything, but that informs the. So when I go back and watch Rebels after watching those episodes, I go, that actually, it informs me more about the characters, and that's what I want from that.
Right.
And I don't know that I had any unnecessary cameos. I don't sort of count Rio Durant as a cameo because I never knew the character. So I was I was thinking about characters, I was thinking about characters I knew. And even the guy, like even Sid's Ithorian character, with the original Hammerhead.
Bolo and Ketch.
Right. Even the original Hammerhead clothes, and that one scene with the original Walrus Man guy on the speeder bike.
Yeah, the speeder bike.
So I love all that stuff, and to me that's more of a cameo because of the action figure than a character that I've never met before. But I don't feel any of them were too much. In retrospect, the show needed a lot of them to keep us super interested. The things we talked about the most were the speculation,
big time.
and the events, the larger narrative. When we went to Ord Mantell, we all went apeshit. That's the first time we've ever been there. That was just a dropped reference in Empire Strikes Back, and then we got to and that's one of my favorite planets. So, without those, I didn't find too much unnecessary stuff except for all of episode 13.
Yeah, well, that's fair. I mean, that's a completely fair statement. I think we can all agree on that at this point. Andy, where are you at?
Hashtag remake episode 13.
The solo cut.
Filoni cut, yeah.
The fandom power cut.
I guess technically mine's not really a cameo because I think this is the first time we get introduced to him, but AV3.
AV3. Oh, the droid?
Yeah, Omega's little droid.
Oh,
who shows up in episode 1 and then we don't see
you
him
mean
again
AZ3? AZ3,
yeah.
Did I not?
No, all good. He's all through Clone Wars.
I thought I got.
Is he all through Clone Wars?
He definitely is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has a whole thing with Ahsoka where Ahsoka rides him like a scooter.
Fair enough. I haven't got to those ones yet.
No, and he's fantastic in the finale. He's the
he might be the
strongest part of the finale by far. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I thought for sure we were going to lose him. But
yeah. That I mean,
up until that last
reinforces
moment.
the idea that this is more for kids, because that would have had a lot of oomph.
Yeah,
that would have had
it's the one character I actually didn't get a shot of.
I
wasn't counting on anyone picking a droid as their favorite, he's got
Princess Leia buns, and he's got the old Bob things from the black hole on his feet.
3PO eyeballs,
3PO eyeballs.
So there's a familiarity to him.
There absolutely is. I mean, he fits that common. I wouldn't say the common design aesthetic, but he definitely fits the Star Wars design aesthetic. Yeah.
So
I love, his primary mission, his characterization, the way he introduces himself with a string of 30 numbers, and it's like, AZ3. That's all we're gonna call you.
That's all we need to know.
Yeah.
But he's the guy. He's the one who took the chip out of Fives, and he's the surgeon that removed the chips out of those errant Jedi.
Yeah.
I did see that episode. But as far as worst or unnecessary, I'm with Hank here. I don't really have one.
You don't think there's one?
I don't. I like seeing everybody that showed up is like, okay, just more world building and
path. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it's not like Britney Spears showed up and I went, "Oh, geez, what the hell is that?" For? Even the voice cameos, I was just like, "Oh, well, wicked."
Yeah. Another comment come in. Kim says Fennec Shand showing up was cool, and the potential implications with Boba Fett and Omega will hopefully be fleshed out in season 2. Yeah, Fennec Shand as a cameo. Man, I know she was announced. She was the one big cameo that was announced right at the beginning when the show was still in pre-production, I guess.
Yeah, the trailer came out and everybody speculated.
I caught her in the trailer and I was like, is that?
Yeah, is that Fennec Shand? Yeah. So again, there's that whole Boba connection. And like I said before, when Boba Fett rescued her and essentially saved her life in The Mandalorian, like, that's very intentional. Boba Fett just didn't take pity on her and decide, "Oh, I'm going to save your life." There's a reason why he did it. And I personally need to know, what does Fennec Shand do to get a favor from Boba Fett?
Yeah, that's what I said before. This was absolutely my favorite episode. We peaked here. It gave us the most promise of all the things. I know Wayland and the implications of that stuff at the very end is super, super cool.
Yeah,
this just gave it the biggest set of promise and that I could hope for, which is and to quote US, do all roads of Star Wars lead to Boba Fett.
I know,
and I couldn't have been happier with the promise that it gave me. And so maybe it's unfulfilled, and I just have to have a little more emotional intelligence and wait for it to occur. But certainly, I agree that stunning cameo appearance.
Big time. All right, so you don't have a worst. That's fine. We can just move on. Let's talk about sort of we kind of talked. I know you made a way back when I remember, Hank, you sent us a message in our group chat where you highlighted in the credits D. Bradley Baker as the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
So you can't not talk about a show of this caliber without talking about the voice talent. And certainly D. Bradley Baker is up there. The guy's he's the Frank Welker of our show, the man of 1,000 voices, right?
Is there anybody in the industry doing 1 million voices a week like this guy?
I don't know. Yeah.
15 years. He's got to be the largest workhorse in the industry.
Yeah, really. To simultaneously play, 100,000 characters or more at one time.
Quality stuff. How hard is it to just, I'm a big Rick and Morty fan, and I watch that guy do 2 voices off himself every week and go, whoa.
Yeah.
And then watch this guy 5 voices off one another. Like, is he just a schizophrenic madman in that booth, or is he recording them one at a time? Like, I want to know some of that inside stuff. Like,
the recording process of
genius.
Are you recording all of Hunter's lines by themselves, or are you recording the dialogue between the batch? Like, are you drifting in and out of character? I've seen the Graham Norton show. It's a British talk show. You guys have probably seen the clips. Mm-hmm. There's an episode with Seth MacFarlane on the Graham Norton show, and he flips in and out of Stewie, Brian, and Peter seamlessly, and it just, my brain can barely negotiate that.
I know. I watched the Rick and Morty fella, Justin Roiland, do that just seamlessly back and forth.
Right.
Argument with himself, and to go, whoa, that's teetering on madness.
So outside of obviously outside of D. Bradley Baker, who is the Bad Batch, do you guys have a standout vocal performance of the season?
I sure do.
Anybody? You do?
Yeah.
Rhea Perlman. Oh, beautiful.
Rhea Perlman, man. Beautiful. Yeah. If she's not cast to play a live action Sid at some point in the future, I'll be crazy disappointed.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love it. I would love it to see her in The Mandalorian. Are you kidding me? I would love it. She's a fantastic actress. It's one of those, she's not present enough and you almost forget about her.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then you put her in such a familiar scene. You put her running a bar.
Yeah.
And get out of town. It's just the best. Just the best. I wanted Woody Harrelson's character to, I know he's dead, or he wasn't dead at the time. He might have been. I wanted him to show up and bartend for an episode so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
If there's a Sam Malone-like character that shows up in a future episode, I'll die. I'll spit pop through my nose.
What a job! What a job!
Yeah.
What an outstanding actress, and it's wonderful. I mean, maybe I'm cloistered in my Star Wars world, so maybe she's been doing things like left, right, and center that I don't know about.
I honestly don't know. It's just to me,
super happy to have her as a part of my culture.
The last thing I saw, and I caught onto it late. Kim and I started watching. Oh my god, it's a sitcom. It's a total riff on the '80s, and she plays one of the. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else. She did make an appearance in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She was part of Captain Holt's walking group in Florida.
Yeah, that's right.
Outside of that, I can't tell you where else I've seen her in the last decade. Maybe one off in a movie somewhere, but
she has been doing voices.
Has she?
She has. We did that voice post there not too long ago. She had a bit role in the Harley Quinn animated series.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I guess I would know if I'd seen it, but I haven't seen that one yet. So
you should watch it. It's not for kids though.
No. I'd said in the notes when I sent them over to you guys that worst vocal performance, and I said maybe there isn't one. I don't think, for me anyway, I don't think there was a particularly poor like this role sucked, but I put it out there anyway. Did you guys think that there was a disappointing voice performance from anybody?
I'm agog that this has become what it is. Nice. If you watch cartoons from like the 80s, and some of the stuff we love is really strong, but a lot of it is phoned in.
Yeah.
You didn't care when you were a kid because you were into the visuals and stuff. A lot of the acting is phoned in. And I mean, I'm not talking about Looney Tunes where they deliver every line and stuff, but there's a lot of like Thundar the Barbarian stuff. There's so much in the 80s and the 90s where things were just, and now it's this, this art form that like Robert Downey Jr. and Oscar winning actors are stepping into these roles, and it's a legitimate art form. It's been legitimized is what I'm getting at. It always has been legitimate, but it's now been perfected, and it's being brought to this level of like, it's not voice acting anymore. It's
acting. Yeah.
And so, and in terms of that, there's nothing I could take away from anybody who worked on the show, No,
you're right.
And I really can't say that about a lot of properties, but there's nothing I could take away. Okay, I would have liked them to use maybe more effects on Caleb Doome's voice to make him sound younger.
Oh yeah, because I mean it's still very much Freddie Prinze Jr.
Right, but again, it works to emphasize that he's who he is. He tried real hard. So if there's one little hiccup, maybe it was there, but I really actually don't think so.
No, I agree with you on that. What about you, Andy? Anything outstanding for you, vocal performance?
I'm with Hank on this. Sid for Rhea Perlman.
Yeah, we're going back
her
to
delivery.
Rhea Perlman,
the character came to life through her.
Yeah,
Yes, the animation helped, and I don't know if they were using motion capture on.
I said that too. I thought that first episode, maybe the first couple with her, I thought there's something going on here in the animation where the new
her eyes.
That just did not look like pen to screen or pen to tablet. That looked to me like, was that mocapped?
Yeah. But definitely my standout as well. And as far as worst, there was nothing that took me out of it.
No.
Everything voice wise, it flowed.
Yeah.
Kept the story going.
I agree with you. For me, I'm going to go back to my favorite episode, and I'm going to go with Alexander Siddig, who played Senator Avi Singh, who just added this, I don't know, maybe it's just his performance in conjunction with the material and the tone of the episode, but such a level of humanity brought to that character that really drove all the developments that we got from that episode. A lot of it really kind of hinged on his performance, like that whole as he's running away, they're trying to make their way to the Havoc Marauder, and he literally stops midway and he turns and he's like, what am I doing? And I can't leave my people. And it was just, you could feel like the performance there, like he really felt for the people that he felt like he was abandoning, and that just came through in spades for me. So yeah, I mean, props to Alexander Siddig. Good on you, sir, for being able to cross the star lines from Trek to Wars. Welcome to the family.
Don't look back.
And I agree. I don't have like I say, I just put it out there, for the sake of maybe somebody had a thought on that. But again, I'm with you guys. There wasn't a performance that really took me out of it either. So yeah. All right, we're getting down to sort of the nitty gritty here, where the conversation's going to get a little bit more like speculative. So let's move over and talk about this one here. Let's talk about what was the biggest surprise for you guys across the entire season, like something that just came out of nowhere that you didn't expect, or maybe something that subverted your expectations, but something surprising.
For me, I actually the duel between Cad Bane and Hunter.
Yeah.
I kind of knew that Cad Bane was better than him.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very bold choice to shoot your main character right in the chest.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then the Easter egg from the visor that begat that, and the vulnerability that then Omega started realizing there's going to be situations where I can't be protected. I'm going to have to,
right.
I'm going to be vulnerable. So it was a big moment too. And it shocked the crap out of me, because I actually didn't think they'd be so bold. I thought it might've gone, watching it, I thought it might've been a draw somehow, or that he would have winged him or shot the pistol out of his hand if they were.
Yeah.
He shot him point blank in the chest, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes, and I went, whoa.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump in on that one, because for me, I think the biggest surprise for me was, and I say this from our own discussions, because we talked about the potential for character death across the first season, and how the stakes were so high. The biggest surprise for me was that the show didn't actually take the risk and actually kill anybody. And I thought, you've teased it out so much that you've kept the tension so high. Why didn't you pick somebody, kill one of them? Yeah. We mentioned, like taking out Hunter could be the genesis for Omega to blossom and to take more of an active role, or kill Crosshair and, completely abandon the idea he can't be redeemed if he's dead. Like, do something. You teased us with it, and then you didn't do it. So for me, it was a big surprise to me, because I thought for sure someone's going to die this episode. Okay, no, someone's going to die next episode. So
it goes along a lot with what Lauren was saying, and that's that it really is a kids show more than the other ones. I know it's got a rating of PG-13, but more than the other ones. Like, there's more.
Well, wait a minute. I don't want to cut you off there, but let me just ask this: did Lauren watch Resistance?
No, we tried to.
Yeah, if you can get to the end of Resistance,
you get one of the Chewie medals. Like,
yeah.
But I mean, so yeah, definitely better than that. Better watch, more watchable than that. More of the story that I'm invested in is more central. But I just
no, you're right though. It is animation, and it is aimed for a youth audience.
On your end,
I don't know what happened there, but you cut out.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good now.
Ooh, live first glitch. No, just the idea that it's a kid's show, and the characters are often more so than in Clone Wars or Rebels. Characters are often describing what they're doing while they're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's a format for children, so that there's no questions, right? There's a lot of recapping what's just happened in match. A lot of Echo's lines are, well, we just did this, and this, so now that's why we're here. Like, they open an episode with that. And I know you noted it in one episode where they were like, well, the ship systems are down and we're in this situation. And we're like, okay, well, we already knew that. But there's a lot of exposition, more than there needs to be. And that's typical of children's shows.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's no character death, maybe they're going to get slowly heavier. I don't know if there was a character death in the first season of Rebels.
Probably the first season. Besides generic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I noted, and I didn't really realize it because we had watched, and how the sort of the memory of the later episodes stack against the early episodes.
Yeah.
First 3 episodes, they were killing clones left, right, and center. They were not using stuns. When they were on Sulakamai, they were killing clones left, right, and center.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder what the differentiation was, or what the deciding factor was to go from, killing blasts to suddenly we're going to stun everybody.
Maybe the long-term nature of it. Maybe it was a writing choice.
Maybe. Yeah. Biggest surprise for you, Andy?
Biggest surprise for me was the sunrise on Camino.
Oh yeah. I got a shot of that here for you too. There it is.
Because we've never seen it. Like, it's always been rainstorms. It's always been dark. And like, we kind of thought out maybe last week that the storm might be just roving across the planet, kind of like following the dark side of the planet.
Yeah.
And in this sunrise, we do see the clouds kind of shuffling loose.
Yeah.
Right.
So could lend, credibility to the storm just circling the globe.
Right.
So we were wrong about that. I was wrong about that when I said that I thought that was the only moment we ever saw sun and Camino, and that it was holy. It meant that the Empire had cleansed the world and all this.
Right.
Actually, in the episode of Clone Wars Arc Trooper, Fives and Echo are actually beat at the end of the day from the training, and they're sitting outside they go outside and it's sunrise and it's a beautiful sunny day, and they sit and have a moment in the sun, and I'd completely erased that from my brain. But it is like, it's such a moment though when you see it in this episode, in this series, because everything is so dark, and the palette has been one of our biggest complaints is the palette.
Dark. Yeah.
It's dark, very dichotic, diametrically opposed to everything. So it's good pick, Andy, actually.
But we do associate it though with, dark and dank and wet and raining. I mean, that's the big opening shot. Our first exposure to Camino in Attack of the Clones, when the Caminoan comes out of the ocean on the back of that reptile bird
manta ray
fish thing. And it's like a horrible storm. Obi-Wan standing on the platform trying to, call the old folks home. Ha ha ha. And it's just like perpetual, like, ugh. And for the most part, that's how we associate Camino. So I can see how it's easily forgettable.
Yeah, no, it was ripped right out of my head. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it absolutely is it is a bit of a surprise, I think. All right. So if we're going to talk about surprises, then I guess we should also talk about letdowns, because certainly the one that we already talked about was the little spoiler with the Hot Toys thing with Echo and the hand thing. That was a letdown for me, because I actually thought they were going to pay it off. I'm like, oh great, we're going to see him. He's going to get a hand. He's going to have more things to do. Nope. So that was my big letdown, was that they never paid off this tease with Echo and the prosthetic hand. Anything that let you guys down?
Go ahead, Andy.
My letdown is just they gave us all this lead up that we were going to go like hardcore into the bounty hunters.
Yeah.
And then it just went away.
Oh, it really did, didn't it?
So no Boba, no extras. Like I want Sid to be revealed as Botch's mom.
Nice. You know what? I mean, I don't think there's any of us that would dispute that. We'd be like, yep, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Even adopted, I'd deal with it. I guess for me, the biggest letdown of the season is the constant roller coasters that never paid off. We kept going like this and going like this and going like this.
Yeah.
We never went through a loop. We never turned hard 90 and went wee. We just kept climbing and then dipping slightly back into the narrative, climbing and dipping out of it. And so I can name them all, like the unfulfilled promise of episode 4 with Fennec Shand, the idea that we get this resolution for what I thought could be the major arc of the first season with Wrecker so early. The idea that the death of Harrison Dula's mom, we just weren't like that could have been, like, how powerful would that have been? We'd still be talking about it. I think that was a huge letdown, and inevitably the finale, the way that they chose to release it, I really feel like the finale was like, except for the very end, I think the finale was like a waste of time. That's wrong. That's wrong. But
they just aired it. Just air it as a single,
single hour,
50 minute.
Right. They started it with an hour-long episode, finished it with
breaks.
a long episode. And watching it back to back, it's not as bad as it was watching it with a week to breathe.
Right.
And I think that was just a bad choice on the part of, or just maybe a misstep on the part of whoever's putting it together.
Well, A lot of what you're saying, Hank, actually brings us sort of to the next thing that I want to talk about, because there's quite a few dangling plot threads, and we talked about, which ones, we're going to get resolved, or which ones we hope we're going to get resolved. And there's quite a few that are sort of left, and I didn't write them all down, but I've got a few here, like, what's the fate of the Syndulla family? What about Senator Orn Freeta? Is he really dead or not? What happened to Captain Hauser? What about Cut and his family? How are they doing? And what about that Boba Fett Fennec Shan connection? Like, there's so many plot threads that are kind of
just left out there.
They're dangling.
Yeah.
How do we feel about that? Like, did they introduce too much this season and not pay off enough of it?
I think they planted a lot of seeds here.
Big time, yeah.
And with their normalcy to go into the long game.
Yeah.
They do need a lot of those seeds for future projects.
Yeah.
But the way the season finale wrapped, it was like a nice clean ending. Like, if they didn't come back, story wrapped up.
I'm gonna take a risk here, and I'm gonna bring this may not be the best analogy, but I'm gonna go to some of what's popular lately in the last few years in terms of serialized television. I'm going to talk about the CW DC Arrowverse shows and how those shows tend to do a singular villain. They do a full season arc where everything leads up to the final confrontation with the big villain every season. That's the formula you're going to get. And then the final episode, or maybe the final 2 or 3 episodes, will set up the recurring villain for the next season. And that formula has worked across 4 or 5 shows now for how many seasons? And I guess that's kind of where I get this, like, did the Bad Batch just introduce too much all at once and not resolve enough of what they dropped?
Yeah, I mean, there's a long con. Some of these threads were picked up from other series and then put down in this one, hopefully to be picked up possibly in other series again or in subsequent seasons.
Right.
But I don't know if we're talking about this episode or this series for this long without the plot threads. I don't think that it exists as a of its own volition without being held up by all these things that we want to talk about, that we're hoping for, and that I don't like. There's not enough that props it. Oh, that was cool. It was visually stunning, but what are the stakes? And so without the stakes, without the main narrative woven in and out, I don't think it stands on its own. And that's probably maybe controversial, because I went in with great guns, and I almost formed that opinion after watching the whole thing cohesively.
Right.
Like it doesn't have the rewatchability of Rebels. It just. I don't want to say that. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'll go watch Skywalker right now, but it's not this. It doesn't have, there's not enough to keep me there. So I will be upset if we don't get some of these pieces of. I know they can't do every one. One of the biggest things, if I sit there and I analyze myself and I go, one of the biggest letdowns in my whole career of being entertained, if you will, like we're all just consumers and we love to be entertained, was Lost because of this very idea that here is a friggin' 1,000 acres of seeds that we planted, and we're actually just there's gonna be a massive flood at the end, and none of them will sprout. Sorry guys, the end. It was all a dream. And I don't know if my soul can handle being this invested in something and having at least not some of them pop out. And so
get another comment here from Kim, who says that the biggest letdown was the last episode. It was lackluster after so many episodes and so many possible story arcs that they ended the season with a filler episode. And I think we are all in agreement that as the episode by itself, absolutely it does. They put the brakes on and kind of just.
So I encourage everybody to try to watch it in a 1-hour format if they can stomach it. Honestly, it does cleanse the palate without that week to breathe and go, why are we just doing the same things over and over and over? Just watch it as a 1 hour if you get the chance, because it does fix a lot of the stuff. But
yeah,
I
it does.
know I do agree that as the way that they just brought it to us, the plate they served it on, the dish was just like cold.
I feel like the plot threads served to do the thing that I'm sure that the producers of the production team wants, and that's generate excitement. Because again, going back and reviewing episodes of our show, and you're like, how excited were we at like all roads lead to Boba Fett? We were so excited about that. You know, seeing the Syndulla family and being so excited to have Hera and Chopper, and like to see just a second here and I'll pull it up.
I bought 3 Boba Fett shirts. I bought 3 of them so I could
You
wear
went right out and did that. Oh my Lord. So I mean, you know, to finally get, you know, a look at Eleni and knowing that, you know, that her demise is coming and not having that payoff. But it generated that excitement that we all wanted from the show. So yeah. You know, dangling plot threads are I guess are good in the sense that they're the nuggets, as you say, Andy. They are the seeds for future seasons and future episodes.
Yeah, and let's hope they just keep watering it and not abandoning them, because it's just heartbreaking.
Right. I don't want to go, like you say, with the Lost thing. I don't want to go so far and then something from season 1 is forgotten until season, let's say it makes 5 seasons, and we've forgotten it.
The best thing for entertainment as a whole, especially cohesive nerd stuff that we like, stuff that has, you know, all the detail and stuff, is what Marvel is doing with their television properties. And this is indicative of that. So much detail, so much backstory, so many Easter eggs, so many little minor things that I don't have a problem with them doing like marveling Star Wars at all. I like hook, line, and sinker. I can't wait for the Japanese animated
Star Wars Visions coming up later this year. And so, you know, just to touch on the Marvel thing, Kevin Feige is getting a Star Wars project. Did we hear about this?
I did not.
Absolutely.
I just read something about that earlier this week, that he may be getting a Star Wars project. So that's
been in the ether for a few months.
Yeah.
Well,
on the subject of dangling plot threads, though, like, we can't forget, we've got more stuff coming at us. Like, there's the Book of Boba Fett, there's the Andor show, there's the Obi-Wan show. And Ahsoka. Who knows? Ahsoka as well, yeah. As everything weaves in and out of each other, and those lines become more blurred. Are there seeds here that will pay off there? It could happen. It absolutely could happen. And sort going into the corporate thing, they are doing Disney and Lucasfilm are doing the right thing by doing that, because they want us to watch all of their shows, which I didn't need any convincing. I was in right from the beginning, so no problem there. But yeah. They really want you to be invested in everything. And, you know, if I can just, you know, turn that on its side for a second, the criticism is now you almost have to be invested in everything, or you're going to be you may be left out in the dark on some things that would be like, what?
It's nice to have a little group like this too. So when someone is stronger, you know, reads more of the comics or reads more of the RPG stuff to be able to bump ideas off of one another, you know. Like, so, I mean, the general fan doesn't know that Kira can go toe to toe with Vader with lightsabers.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. That's recent too, isn't it?
Mental. Last issue.
Right?
War. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. She's not even wielding a lightsaber. She's wielding like this sword that's got this ring of energy around it, similar to the pikes that the Praetorian Guard have. And she's going toe to toe with them, and it's like, wow.
So with all of these dangling plot threads that are out there, I mean, then the next logical sort of thought process is, of all the things that have been sort of propped up in front of us, what's the one thing that everybody's looking like most forward to having resolved in a future episode or a future show? Oh, Hank, yeah, you're a man of my own heart.
Come on, let's get to it.
I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
Omega Fett.
Yeah. So
amazing.
That in itself, for me, actually is probably the biggest one too. And it's the idea that, you know, what's going to happen when Boba Fett finds out that he's got a sister,
right?
In the truest sense of the word too, right? Unaltered.
And
clone.
the best part about that is not knowing where that's going to bear fruit, where that seed's going to bear. There's 3 places it could bear fruit next season of this show. It could bear fruit in the middle of his own show as a flashback. It could bear fruit in The Mandalorian proper. Now it's just been revealed that those things are going to be filming pretty much simultaneously, which is super cool. Carl Weathers, accidentally let that out of the bag that they start filming in September. Which was not supposed to be till next year. So that's awesome news. Probably trying to make the most out of this gap between the pandemic waves, if there is one.
Right.
And so there's a lot of fields that that these flowers could pop into, and I'm super excited about that. I certainly guarantee that the last thread of this is probably going to be explored more in the Ahsoka show. With that road to Thrawn, the road to Ezra Bridger, definitely, and all part of the larger narrative. And that's why we see characters like Tup and like Hera and like Caleb Dune. Like, so that we understand that this is a huge. We're no longer into these little micro one-offs. That this is a huge narrative. This is we're telling the whole story of an entire galaxy, and there's a lot of story to tell.
There is a lot of story to tell, and I think there's let's talk about where things might be going. So let's go right into that, future developments and sort of things to come. And I think the best place to start this conversation, and I'm just going to bring up the image here for a second, is that closing shot, or that closing image of the final episode, as we roll in here on what has now been officially revealed to be Mount Tantiss. And so we should probably talk about Mount Tantiss for a second here and sort of the origins of this thing, because I know we threw out that wild speculation, like, is this Exegol pre terraforming resource consumption? And it's like, no, this is something completely different. This has been confirmed to be the planet Wayland, which had a reference earlier in the new canon, but we never actually got to see it. It was just spoken in a scene.
That's my third hashtag Hank was right of the season. I'm gonna stand on that one. Man, I couldn't be happier about that plot thread. That's less of a dangling plot thread and more of like a cliffhanger that I can go, okay, now that gives me something to sit there and go, where are we going with this? And to invest some time in it and enjoy myself. Some of those other ones are frustrating because I'm like, what was happening to Rex in that one scene? But I might never get to know that, and I shouldn't invest too much thought into it. But this, if we're at Mount Tantiss, there's just the potential of that. Oh,
well, I mean, the new canon, certainly where Filoni's been involved, has been rife with picking what I have always said are the best elements of the old EU and bringing them forward into the new canon, and then reintroducing them in new and interesting ways. We got that in Star Wars Rebels with the reintroduction of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and here we get another piece of connective tissue with Mount Tantiss, because both of those elements were introduced back in the early 90s through a novel, Star Wars Heir to the Empire. So this is a copy. This is just an image of the actually, that's the West End Games Heir to the Empire source book. But you can see very clearly on that there's a shot of Thrawn there in the lower left, and then our legacy characters, Han, Luke, and Leia, and Chewie, and then this crazy looking Gandalf dude in the middle. And I want to kind of talk about sort of what Wayland and Mount Tantiss means for the new canon going forward, because there's a lot of possibilities here about how it could be treated. So, you've got it there, do you?
Yeah, it's the exact same cover. Except
it is the same cover. Yeah.
Exact same cover.
I was trying to find the original cover because there's been a few reprints of that book. And,
I have a couple hard copies. So I just bought at the beginning of the summer, I bought 30 Star Wars novels for like $10 off a guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what he had. There's 3 copies of Heir to the Empire. So I read it really recently. Yeah. And then I went out and found the other ones so I could finish the trilogy, which is essentially the original Thrawn trilogy.
Right.
And if fans haven't read that, now you got to put it in perspective, because a lot of the fans are new fans to Star Wars, but there was this time in Star Wars where we didn't have anything but the novels. The nerd, like Wes and I and Andy, we all had the game, And there were other properties, there were video games, and there were like, you could still read the comics and stuff, but we didn't have anything that was furthering the narrative of what we wanted to see, which was what's happening post Return of the Jedi. And Heir to the Empire opens moments after the destruction of the Death Star.
It's essentially the sequel trilogy before the sequel trilogy was a thing.
It's all we had. So no wonder we poured so much energy. It was gospel for 30 years before Disney just went, nope.
That's right. And it's really good though. But again, if we're gonna go, we've got Thrawn. Thrawn's real now. He's in the new canon. He exists. We know that Ahsoka, at least in the future, is looking for him. I can't see how we're not gonna get an origin for Thrawn in this, especially when you look at, some of the other connective pieces, like where is it here? Like our oh my Lord, I can't find it here. Here it is. So we look at our Imperial scientist, who we already know is wearing the same uniform as Dr. Pershing in The Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. Like, those two are so close together. And being at Wayland, this is where I wanted to talk about Heir to the Empire a little bit, because for those of you who don't know the story, like, what's Cole's noted here?
Okay.
There's this, we got to go back and we got to talk about this character who appears on the cover, like the weird looking Gandalf dude. This is a Jedi, and I don't know how to pronounce Joris. I don't know if it's Sabath.
I always say Kaboth.
That's what I always say.
I could be wrong. Yeah.
This guy Joris Kaboth, he's a Jedi master, contemporary to like the Council, goes off on this big mission called Outbound Flight, where he and a bunch of other Jedi get on a big ship, and they fly out into the unknown regions of space looking for other sentient beings that could be trained as Jedi. Unfortunately, they run into what's called the Chiss ascendancy, and the Chiss. So Grand Admiral Thrawn, he's a blue, near human looking dude. His species are the Chiss, and they are the dominant force in that region of the unknown galaxy. And they destroy the ship. They kill everybody on board, and that alerts the Chiss ascendancy that there is another civilization out there, which brings the Chiss into the known Star Wars galaxy. So what happens is Thrawn's people actually align themselves with the Empire, and Thrawn becomes this admiral in the Imperial military. So Wayland, as we had mentioned before on our previous show, is sort of the secret stockpile of all of the Emperor's like secret tech, which includes a fully functional cloning facility. So this is where things get really funky and weird, because they use the cloning facility and they actually clone Joris Kaboth, and they subvert him to the dark side, and he becomes the guardian of Mount Tantus on Wayland, and he's the protector of the mountain. And in fact, Thrawn uses that cloning technology to actually crew his fleet. And the biggest thing is, because of where this takes place in the timeline, like this is after, as you say, Hank, it's after Return of the Jedi. We find out that Luke Skywalker's severed hand has been recovered, and they actually use that to clone Luke, and they make this evil version of Luke Skywalker.
So, which has also been canonized by the comics, because Vader finds the hand in a glass case on Exegol.
Oh, cool. So they've got the hand somewhere.
Yes, sir.
So this kind of brings up some ramifications and sort of like when we talk about pulling the best parts of the old EU into the new canon, I mean, there's a whole lot of material to draw from here. And
you recall too that the Chris Terrio's original script for Force Awakens opened with Luke's hand floating in space beside his lightsaber.
That's right.
Like,
yep.
Yeah, man. Huge plot point.
So I'm pretty excited about the idea of like how Mount Tantus specifically relates to Grogu in The Mandalorian. I mean, A connects to B, connects to C, connects to the rebirth of the Emperor. But I want to see it. I want to see those connective pieces put together.
Yep.
So, do you want to get into some really crazy speculation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's.
I hit that thing last night. I didn't know it wasn't an original idea when I said it.
Yeah,
it's been around. Secret. Yeah,
it's been going for the last.
It's nice that I'm thinking the same way.
the idea that Mount Tantus has been introduced, there's a fan theory that has circulated over the last week or so that perhaps with the idea that the cloning facility on Wayland may in fact mirror its purpose in Heir to the Empire, there's a suggestion that the Luke Skywalker that we got in The Mandalorian may in fact be the evil clone that has now in possession of our beloved Baby Yoda Grogu.
Yeah, and let's not get it twisted. If you guys have never read the Heir to the Empire trilogy, Luke Skywalker has a lightsaber duel against himself.
Yeah.
And the only way to tell them apart is if they actually take the time to spell their names out to you, because the evil Luke is spelled with 2 U's. So that, and okay, when I was 20, I had that took me a little bit of like, oh, come on. Come on. Put 2 Y's in his last name, for God's sakes. Luke. But and after I got off that, man, what a cool idea. And so then the idea, it hit me while I was talking to you guys last night, and I hadn't read the fan speculation. I just went, whoa, what if fake Luke is the one that has Grogu?
Has Grogu, yeah.
And then we dipped into the weird R2 thing,
which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that. I have several shots of that. So, the first thing
it's got legs, man. It's got legs.
And nobody's, to my knowledge, and we follow a lot of Star Wars media here, nobody else has talked about this. When we were reviewing The Mandalorian in our Fandalorian series, I don't know if I said it on the air, but I definitely said it.
But you did say it.
Why does R2-D2 have these extra nubs on his shoulder that he's never had anywhere else?
No action figures, no Jedi.
Yeah, there's no other reference for that. Yeah, it's really weird. So the throwaway is, it can't be the evil clone because R2-D2 was there, and that's where I'm like, well, wait a minute now.
I immediately answered myself last night. Oh no, R2's there, but then you sent that screen cap and you reminded me of that, and I went, oh man, this actually has legs.
So I mean, just take that in for a second. Now that's not a really good shot because it's pretty far off, but I mean, there's Luke with Grogu and R2-D2 on the turbo lift as they're departing that cruiser. And we think all is well in the galaxy. And then it's like, well, wait a minute, though. Like, if that's the evil Luke, is there anything that supports that? And if we want to dig down on the whole R2-D2 thing, and now this may really be stretching it here, but I can't help but point out that, R2-D2 is almost an enigma, right? Like, there have been so many versions of R2-D2. In fact, the sequel trilogy actually called on the R2-D2 Builders Club to bring people from the fan community in to help them build droids for the movie. But to be specific, have a look at R2-D2's shoulder there. Particularly, there's 2 little nubby protrusions on his shoulder, and they're on both shoulders. I couldn't get an image that shows them both at the same time, but trust me, they're there on both shoulders. Those have never appeared on R2-D2 in any other on-screen appearance. And I just want to go through a couple of them and go like, here's R2 from A New Hope. And here he is again in The Empire Strikes Back. I should probably take that banner down because you can't really see it, but there he is in The Empire Strikes Back. And then we get him in Return of the Jedi. And so the theme is they're not there. Here's The Force Awakens. And again in The Last Jedi. Like, what are those? What purpose do they serve? And why are they there? Because if this is the R2, if this is the R2 post Return of the Jedi that we're supposed to believe is the same R2 in The Force Awakens, then they've been removed. And why have they been removed? And what the hell is going on here?
Why were they added in the first place?
Right.
But it wouldn't be the first time we've seen an evil droid.
Absolutely not.
So,
or a droid disguised to look like another droid with a paint job.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have
exactly,
and that precedence for that.
Yeah. So I mean, as weird as it sounds, if that's not the real R2, then maybe that's not Luke Skywalker. Maybe that's Luke.
Okay, you got to know something here too. When we go down this line of thinking logically, the presence of R2 there is just for fans.
Yep.
It doesn't serve to trick anybody else in that group because they have never met R2, never met Luke.
Yeah.
So that's
Except
just
Grogu.
for the fans.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Well,
Grogu met R2.
Oh, do we think though? Because we kind of thought that because of the reaction that they had to each other, or the perceived reaction.
Yeah, that is speculation. One thing I would like a better image of, and if I had to do it over and ask you for an image now, I could, is the image a clear image of that X-wing as it lands? Because we could easily tell whether that's Red 5 or not.
It had the Red 5 markings on it, but again,
fakeable, totally fakeable.
That's what I mean. Like, could they have faked that? I
especially if Luke's still on Wayland, and that's Dark Luke in that frame. Because there was a while he was in a cell as the apprentice of Joris Kaboth.
I feel like this opens up an avenue for what drove Luke into exile. I think that could play out in future seasons. And man, I don't know.
If they want to tie it back to that whole Empire moment where he sees himself as Darth Vader, literally have him, so many years later fighting himself.
And then let's examine his fighting style in that clip too, because he's using like Form 5 there for the first time.
It looks a lot like
he's crushing droids with the Force, like just crushing them, and it mirrors. It's the inverse of what Vader does. And I know that we all thought thematically he's the inverse of Vader, but like there's a lot of little ideas you could run with there.
Yeah. So there's one other thing here, and I think this is sort of a fan favorite thing that we can talk about is if we're gonna play in this space where these things are possibilities, then we can't exclude the inclusion of Mara Jade, the original purple lightsaber wielder.
You got it.
Mara Jade, who served as what's called the Emperor's hand. Apparently he had several hands, and that they were agents of him. And we know that Darth Vader and the Emperor did not, go out and slay the Jedi single-handedly, that they had help. And so there were these agents of the Emperor, like the Emperor's hands and the newly canonized Inquisitors.
Right.
Yeah, and the Purge.
Along the same lines, right. And here's the idea for... Oh, go ahead. Yeah, you got it.
What's interesting here is that, Mara Jade has this romantic connection to Luke Skywalker, but she's torn because she has this like, I don't want to say brainwashed, but essentially brainwashed programmed mission where her mission is to kill Luke Skywalker. And she does. She finally gets that freedom from the Emperor's spell, if I might put it that way, when she kills the evil clone. So she's fulfilled her destiny to kill Luke Skywalker, and she's now free to live her own life, no longer subjugated by the Emperor. And of course, they go on and they get married and they have this romantic relationship. Is there room in the new canon for an introduction of Mara Jade in a series of flashbacks that maybe that romantic relationship could be there, and the loss of Mara Jade is something that propels Luke into exile?
There's a weird moment in the beginning of the Last Jedi novel. There's a chapter of Luke is dreaming that he's back on Tatooine and he's married to Cammy.
Oh, really?
Wind Rider. He's just having a dream that his life was totally different.
One of his teenage friends.
And he's in exile on. So it's an interesting idea. If that's canon, I think that Luke's interpretation of he's got to have the loosest interpretation of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Probably going to be informed by meeting Ahsoka and understanding why, if they have that conversation, why she left the Order, why she considers herself a Jedi again. And we've talked about this in the show, and there's all kinds of deeper connotations to the idea that Jedi like Qui-Gon or even like Dooku before him had views points of the Force and what it meant to be a Force wielder and a benevolent creature in the galaxy.
Right
did not align exactly with what the Council was saying.
Yeah.
And you get all the time these people that are like genuine people that they make these turns. Like Dooku made this turn, Barriss Offee made this turn. Tano made the same turn but didn't quite go, she stayed center. Which is why we have the idea of a gray Jedi. And we had Qui-Gon being able to maintain his status as a Jedi Knight, but going against the Council at every turn
by being a servant of the living Force.
Right, and so they had to maybe keep him closer than like Dooku because they had already lost Dooku to that same thing.
Absolutely, same mentality. Dooku, who thought he was right, who genuinely thought
his eyes never turned, man. He never fully embraced the dark side. He just rejected the Jedi, and that's different.
Yeah, that's totally different. I'm going to stick with the Jedi thing here for a minute. We've talked an awful lot here about sort of Heir to the Empire and Mount Tantus and how it relates to the old legends. And so we've now speculated on what it could mean, but I want to come back full circle sort of to the Bad Batch in general. And I'm going to read from my notes here because I don't think I can really explain it any better. It's called The Bad Batch, and ostensibly the show should be about them. But this is such a hugely important period of galactic history that without introducing another television show or a series of flashbacks in one of the other series, and Star Wars has now shown us that they're not afraid to do flashbacks. They did it in The Mandalorian with Din Djarin's childhood, and we've had the Luke Skywalker flashback to the loss of his Jedi Academy. But it should be about the Bad Batch. But we know that not every Jedi died. We know that there are survivors out there. And I want to go back to what I said earlier. When Sid was introduced, she was introduced as a Jedi informant, not a Republic informant. So is the Bad Batch... I think the Bad Batch is uniquely poised just because of where it sits in galactic history to show us, without having to do flashbacks, what actually happened to some of the surviving Jedi. I mean, I thought for sure we were going to get not for sure, but I was hoping that we were going to get a little Cal Kestis thing with the introduction of Braca. And having already been to Braca, does that set up, maybe there's an episode where they're going to have to go and do something with him, and maybe the Bad Batch are the ones who drop Cal Kestis off on Braca and set him up.
Entirely possible, and not out of the realm of possibility at all. You're right. It has to be inevitably about the Bad Batch, and they tried really hard to make us care. Arguably the biggest emotional beat was almost losing a droid that was so periphery to the show that they brought it in from Clone Wars, and so they could have done more, in my opinion. And maybe it's a long con. Maybe they're going to do more to inure us to these characters. And I don't hate any of them. Don't get me wrong.
No.
I love Wrecker. Wrecker made me swear.
Love that guy.
And so I keep circling back to, do these characters stand on their own? Like pick a character from Star Wars. Does Han Solo stand on his own? Yeah, he does. Does Luke Skywalker stand on his own? Yeah, he does. Leia, Lando, Chewie, Vader. We want to Obi-Wan. We want to get into the minor character, like Barriss Offee stands on her own. Right? Like, and do these characters, maybe they have to stand on each other because they're a group, but I'm firmly convinced that if you remove all the props, I don't give a damn about the show.
It's hard to invest about a group of guys that, all of the whole moral compass thing and the having to make choices for the first time in their life without the safety net of a Republic government that tells them what is right and what is wrong. That whole sense of their own, sense of identity, having that challenge. I like all that, but like you say, without all the other things around it, what's really there to compel me to want to follow these guys?
It's the same problem I have with The Walking Dead. I don't know if you guys have ever been into that. I was into the comic before, and then I was into the show for the first few seasons until it became so repetitive. But it's the same problem, and it was the best thing about the show to start, was that the idea that the biggest narrative thread is environment. Like the zombies are weather in that show, at least for the first few seasons. They're happening to the characters, and you're watching the characters develop in that environment. The zombies are weather. For the first bit of this show, the beginning of the Empire is the weather that our characters are experiencing.
It's going on around.
So and hopefully they don't inundate us with that. Hopefully it's not raining all the time, and maybe sunrise on Camino at the end is symbolic of that. Well,
maybe the old legends. This part of galactic history was always referred to as, it's right in the opening crawl, the dark times. And to me, this should be the dark times. It should be oppressive, and it should be like man, it should feel, there should be a certain, a minimum level of tension for any protagonist all the time.
There's got to be a reason that they started the Rebel Alliance. There's got to be such a level of oppression and fear and all these things in the whole galaxy that what they talk about in the sequel trilogy is that spark. It ignites itself. And it's got to grow into a forest fire. And so we've got to see them be just horrible. We need to see them be the Nazis of the galaxy.
Right. When was it the second episode where they're herding people in and you don't have your new chain code, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, get a chain code or you don't get on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the idea that they don't treat people from separatist planets any different than they treat people from Republic planets. Yeah, it's all oppression. Right. You're starting to understand that. And the weather is my favorite part of the show.
I'm right there with you. We made the joke about, the weakest part of the Phantom Menace was that it was a movie about politics. And then, when people rhetorically say, who wants to watch a 2-hour movie about politics? You and I are like, put our hands up. Me, please. I want to know.
I would love to sit in a Senate meeting, for God's sakes.
That's why I say that the Bad Batch, just by virtue of where it fits into galactic history, is poised to be able to tell a bunch of stories that don't have to be done in vignette style a la flashback.
Right.
I'm not opposed to flashbacks. I think they're fun and they're cool. But if you can tell me the story as it's happening, that's even better.
And that could be its actual purpose is to like literally Ezra Bridger. And the purpose of Rebels is to bring us from Lucasfilm to Disney.
Yeah.
Literally. So maybe that's what this is posed to do. Maybe this is our gateway to all the seeds that they've sown. I hope so.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's sort of my thoughts on new developments and where things could be, might be. God knows where it's going. But man, it's 16 episodes later. We're here. It's the end. We've
the end so far.
The end so far until we get to season 2. And I think, I don't know, guys, what do you think about revisiting season 1? How does it feel for you now that we've kind of taken a look at it sort of as a whole?
I'm excited for season 2.
Yeah,
I am. I wouldn't be without that carrot at the very end, though. That exclamation mark at the very end is why I'm still hooked. Enough time has passed since episode 4 that I might have forgotten about Boba Fett. Quite honestly, I didn't. But the average, you know what I mean? That has gone. If you don't listen to our episodes every week, you're gonna miss that sort of. And that without that big, huge stamp at the end, I might have just drifted off into season 2's on next week. Cool, we better get podcasting. And this is going to keep that flavor in my mouth until we get to season 2, right?
And I'm sure that all of the other media outlets and all of the other the YouTubers and the podcasters are going to have all kinds of speculation. And I know because I'm a creature of habit that I am going to consume a fair amount of it on the lead up to our next go at a Star Wars property. And
right. Do we know what's up next? Is there release dates for anything up next?
Next, isn't it?
Sorry, what's that?
Visions?
Star Wars Visions, yeah.
No, definitely Visions. Yeah. I was just thinking of the canon properties.
Man, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I know that we've wrapped principles on Obi-Wan. And that's about all I know.
that is sometimes.
Apparently, we're pretty far down the road in the first movie to be released, which is the
is it the Rogue Squadron?
Rogue Squadron movie.
We're pretty
far down the road there too. And I don't know if you guys heard. I think I mentioned it in the chat the other day. Is that there's a strong rumor now about a John Boyega led Finn project on Disney Plus.
I just read something about that last night. Yeah,
and it would explain why he's completely 180'd in interviews regarding Star Wars and regarding his position on Disney Plus. He's rolled it right back.
Is that right?
They're having frank conversations, and that was how it started. And so you read those in light of how visceral he was for a while. And,
sure. I mean, everything. There's always an angle when it comes to the corporate persona or the public persona of any entity, whether it's an actor or a big corporation. So surely there's
that's
some
bad
discussion
PR.
there.
That's bad PR coming from somebody like that. So like, you know what? I'd be surprised if they don't offer Black Widow. Oh my goodness.
Scarlett
Johansson. I'm gonna be surprised if they don't offer her own miniseries or her own Disney Plus past show or her own animated series, just to cleanse the palette of the negative publicity that's happening.
Because of the lawsuit, I just heard something the other day that they're actually trying to distance themselves from her.
Oh wow!
I also read something. I know it's not Star Wars related, but on the Scarlett Johansson thing, that there's a rumor that she may have been offered a part in a DC movie.
Oh, weird.
So hey, come jump ship.
I mean, if she was still in the wheelhouse, I would accept her as Mara Jade.
Oh, as Mara. Oh, yeah.
Right.
In a heartbeat.
If she was still in the fold. Yeah. But there's a big statement by Kevin Feige that is solidarity with her. Like it's
right. He's not happy with the way it's being handled.
Right. And I don't know what the streaming revenues would have been, but like I guess if you're convinced that the character's done, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot to do something like that. The potential of working just with Disney alone. Like she could be a Disney princess live action mermaid for God's sake.
Yeah, for sure.
There's all kinds of, she's a beautiful, talented actress. But then I see, ostensibly the old idea is let's dump a truckload of money in John Boyega's driveway to shut him up. And I'm going to be happy with that, because there was a disservice to a strong character in The Force Awakens and an even more like a stronger actor. And I have a lot of respect for him in the real world.
That whole talk about not paying off things in Star Wars, and that whole we're in the sink, falling through the quicksand. And he's like, Ray, I got to tell you something. And it never pays off, And
to watch him in that Black Lives Matter moment that he had when he gave that speech. And to watch him like not acting, but be a real human being with real emotions. And I just went, that's my guy right there. I can't wait for Attack the Block 2.
Oh, me too. I'm definitely looking forward to that. All right, guys. Anything anybody wants to close out on before we call it a day, before we close up our first ever live stream?
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't see it, I don't know why you're watching us, but if you didn't see it, it's worth watching. It's stunning.
It really is.
They do this thing this season where they're doing quantum leaps in animation episode for episode. So by the time you get to the finale, although it's dark, by the time you get to the finale, you're light years ahead in the quality of the first episode. And the one thing I actually noticed was sort of fixating on Omega and watching her character evolve so subtly. Until like the tones, the film grain, the eye movements, the water, the emotions are perfect. They've if nothing else, they've moved the animated acting so far down the line that it's worth watching. And if you're a Star Wars fan and you know all those other things, it's definitely entrenched in the world perfectly.
Anything you want to close on, Andy?
Well, I forgot to bring it up last year, but Hank kind of makes a good point on the animation and the palettes and whatnot.
Yeah.
But your normal underwater scene when, like, say, Lake Placid, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And you look at the top and it's brown water. You can't see anything. And then they show the underwater bit and it's crystal clear. With the Bad Batch, you can't see. There's debris everywhere. And they reflect that in the quality of the water.
That was very well done.
Like, super dark to see, but it should be that way.
Yeah. So, I guess I take for granted that there's a line between an entertainment property and the level of realism. And I mean, we talked about that last week about how did she blow the door off of her tube with that much water pressure? But you know what? It's space opera, and if I fixate on that too much, it just takes away from the experience.
That's what a lot of people. I like to remind people that are casual fans when they get it's fantasy. It's sci-fi fantasy before any of those. It's as much Lord of the Rings as it is Star Trek, right? It's space wizards with
wizards and laser swords.
You must suspend your disbelief, or you're going to be
so easy to do too. Once again, we've come to the end of the first season of the Bad Batch. I, for one, fully converted. I'm in for the long haul. As long as they keep doing what they're doing and, give me some resolution in season 2. I want to see some of these, unresolved plot threads get wrapped up in season 2. Please don't carry it all over down the road to 3, 4, 5 seasons. Especially
I'm gonna get a wrist bracelet that says "What would Dave Filoni do?" and just trust that. I hope that I'm right about that, and I think I am.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us on our first ever Fandom Power live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with us. Oh, we got one more comment here just coming in here. What do we got here? Oh, thank you very much. Kim says, great live show, guys.
Woo,
thank you
only
so
one swear.
much.
Only one swear. I live in Halifax, guys. Mm-hmm.
One from you and one from me. Oh, what do I say? If you guys like this kind of thing, if you think we should do more of it, shoot us a line, drop it in the comments, because we'll be following kind of as comments trickle in on this post later on. We definitely read everything. We know what you guys are saying to us, and we certainly will react to it. If there's other things you want us to do, things you want us to cover, let us know, because we are pop culture junkies here. We pretty much love it all. So let us know what you guys want to see.
After we go off the air, can people rewatch this? Is this going to be on?
Yeah, so this is going to stay up.
And there's an audio version for the podcaster guys?
There will be an audio version that will go up a little bit later once Andy's had his time to put his magic on it. The only thing that hitches on us is if Disney decides to kill us on the use of 50 seconds of their footage. Right. I'm hoping that they won't, because we totally use it under fair use. So hopefully they do not. That they don't access because of that. But again,
awesome.
First ever live stream. I think it was relatively successful. I totally look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, it was a blast.
And, guys, until next time, when we do another season of a Star Wars property.
Yep.
That's it for me, guys.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Do like and subscribe.
Yeah. Smash the button. Next, so next year we got to wait a year, but it'll be the same batch time.
Same batch channel.
There it is, fellas.
All right. Bye for now, everybody.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Fandom Power. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be talking about another one of your favorite fandoms. Fandom Power is a Sawcast production.